Hurricane Florence has now strengthened into a Category 4 hurricane. The hurricane has maximum sustained winds of nearly 130 miles per hour and is threatening the southeastern U.S. States of emergency were declared in North and South Carolina, as well as Virginia, as millions of people are bracing for storm surge, flooding, heavy rains, and damaging winds. CBS News weather producer David Parkinson is here. Okay, David, set the scene for us. Where's the storm at the moment?
So the storm is still several hundred miles away from making landfall. It's actually over 1,000 miles away from making landfall, but it's getting a lot healthier. So here's the interesting thing. I was talking to Anne-Marie.
Healthy isn't good in a storm, is it?
No, it's not. So I was talking to Anne-Marie at 11 a.m. and we had jumped up to a Category 3. The National Hurricane Center did a very rare thing and at noon kicked it up to a Category 4. So that's 15 miles an hour in an hour in terms of their classification. Take a look at the satellite. Look at how clearly you can see that eye. You can almost see into the center of it, right? That is an extremely healthy looking storm, and it's continuing to go unabated basically straight at the coast because you're going into some exceptionally warm water. So it's southeast of Bermuda. We're still over 1,000 miles from the coast, but it's moving west at 13 miles an hour, and it is now up to a Category 4 as it marks its way west.
Is it good that it's far away because it gives it time to die out, or is it bad that it's far away because it gives it time to strengthen?
Yeah, it's got plenty of a runway. So take a look at this, right? So we're at 130 now. By tomorrow, it's 145. By Wednesday, it's 150. And then we think as it gets close to shore, there might be a little bit of shear that it runs into that'll weaken it just a little bit. But it looks like high end 3, low end 4, maybe even mid-range 4 when it makes landfall. If it does so as a 4, it would be the first time North Carolina's ever seen a Category 4 to make landfall.
And that's Saturday afternoon we expect landfall?
No, it is early Friday morning. So it could be as early as Thursday night, but probably wee hours of the morning Friday, as late as maybe 6 a.m. But here's the interesting thing. We have gotten a lot better about this forecast, right? So we've whittled it down. This was the call on Evening News Friday. And then take a look at what happened now. Look at how much we're more certain. So here's the interesting thing. We're getting some more model guidance that suggests, Wilmington is not only the south end of the envelope, but you got to now watch out for a landfall that kind of stalls off the coast of the Outer Banks, which is both a sort of good and bad news type situation.
What's good about that?
Good news in the sense that most of the state is not going to be in the right front quadrant, which is the worst side of the storm to be. But here's the stall scenario, right? It's moving 10 to 12 miles an hour onshore. As soon as it makes landfall, it slows down to 3 to 4 miles an hour. So now, in just 24 hours, it's covered 90 miles. That means during that whole time, you're getting all of this rainfall. So you've got a freshwater flooding component that is added on to a wind component and a storm surge component. So in terms of how much freshwater flooding we're looking at, right, this has nothing to do with water getting pushed in from the ocean. But the freshwater flooding, we're looking at a 15 to 30 inch range, and that is half of what Harvey had, but it's the same situation. The storm gets inland and just stops moving.
You're getting ahead of my next question, which is this a flooding event, a wind event, a storm surge event? What are we most worried about?
Right, so it is all three. So here's the most important thing to note on this. The strongest winds are in what I like to call a little banana that's right around the center of the storm. It's not very large. Usually it's 15 to 45 miles. If you're in that, you've got some serious damage. But beyond that, you've got strong wind, but it's not, deadly, widespread destructive wind. The next thing that's really concerning is the storm surge. So when you take a look at what the storm surge is going to be doing for this storm, you are looking at inundations of 9 feet in some places. So if we take a look at this map right here, I know it's a little bit zoomed out, but I kind of want to give everybody a perspective there, right? Wilmington's in the far southwest bottom left corner of there. Anywhere you see purple on that map is flooding of 9 to 10 feet. Feet of water, right?
That is a lot of land.
That is talking about an entire first floor of, let's say, a hotel completely covered, right? There are spots in the town and city of New Bern where the entirety blocks away from the river, 10, 20 blocks away from the river, are still underwater. You've got that in Jacksonville, in Greenville, in all of these places that are close to Washington, close to the coast. That's really the big concern there, is that all that water is going to get pushed up the rivers and into the sounds. That's the storm surge on top of the wind, on top of the freshwater flooding that I was talking about earlier.
Last thing, this starts Friday night, and when do we think it'll be over?
That's the big TBD. So this thing could go into Monday, it could go into Tuesday. It's just a question of when it kind of kicks out. And here's the interesting thing, right? If it takes that Cape Hatteras stall. It does a little loop-de-loop, and then maybe it comes in. So we could be talking about this storm not only a week from today, but into the middle of next week. And that's why we're really concerned about that freshwater flooding beyond the first landfall. The key thing that I want to just stress on this one, if you are evacuating from the coast, right, we've got mandatory evacuations at Cape Hatteras. If you're evacuating from the coast, don't go to inland North Carolina because that's where the heaviest rain is going to be.
Okay.
So you're going to be seeing the same sort of problems. If you can
get north or south.
Right. So go to South Carolina. Into Georgia, those are good, safe places away from this storm. But, you know, I was talking with people at UNC in Morehead City, and they're like, oh, we'll go up to Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill is not going to be doing that much better.
Is north okay? You can go to Virginia?
Virginia, depending where you are, you know, they've got some problems too, but it's not nearly as bad perhaps as a Raleigh. But D.C. and on beyond there is probably in a safer spot, at least in the first indications. And I think by tomorrow and probably Wednesday, we'll have a better handle on exactly where this thing's going to go after it makes landfall.
Okay, David Parkinson, I'm sure we'll be seeing lots more of you in the days ahead. Thanks for the latest forecast.
Of course. Thanks, Brooke.